Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you may be. Welcome to yet another fantabulous episode of the Fluid Talks podcast with me, your co-host, Michael.
Co-host C.
Vader himself.
Most excellent, as always, to kick things off. How have you guys been?
Chilling, killing, skimming, trimming, cycling, feeling.
Okay, that cycling bit I know is a myth for you, so...
It's a misconception.
No, it's a myth.
Haters gon' hate.
It's a myth. You know mythical creatures like unicorns and stuff? That's
Hey,
what it is for
unicorns
you to know.
exist. Unicorns are real.
Sawa, if you say so.
I do believe in fairies. I do.
Very...
If you get it,
very well played, my guy.
If you don't get it, forget about it.
Very well played. Very well played. But otherwise, you've been good?
Yeah.
Most excellent. I too have been well. Can't complain. Can't complain about things because complaining doesn't do much.
I'm shocked. Those are like the most words you said regarding your state of being when asked. Good job. I see growth.
Anyway,
don't you think so? Like he's always like, can't complain.
Yeah.
But one thing is for sure, consistency. The word complain is always in every statement.
Oh, sorry. No, I know. Sorry. I've just realized I can complain, but I won't. Although you remember me talking about Google's app icons?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
Yes. I can't complain about that because it's ridiculous, but it's fine. It's fine. Whenever Google decides that they'll settle on a direction of design, they need to. Anyway, you guys have your new... Oh, sorry, hold on.
The harmonica.
Hold on. So, harmonica.
Please be editing these parts. Like find a nice way to stitch. Because I watched the last one. Anyways, I'll give you this feedback afterwards.
Right. So you guys have your news, yes?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Who has more than one news item? None of us. Right.
We keep it short and sweet.
Okay. Excellent. So let's do alphabetically this time. Tony, take us away.
Welcome to my spaceship. And my first news item is about Next.js. Are you familiar with Next.js?
I've heard about it.
Yes, so Next.js, for those who don't know, it's a React-based front end. Well, arguably front end. Well, let me call it full stack. Okay. Full stack to front end a platform or framework. And they just had their Next conference or Next.js conference, and they announced Next.js 13. Now, this comes with very exciting features, very new and exciting features, including like a new routing system. And if you've worked with routes before, you know they can be a pain. So Next used to use page-based routing, which means rather file-based routing, which means if you create a file with the name about.ts or JS, that it becomes /about. And it was like a very intuitive and very easy way of doing routes with zero configuration file. Now they have new and better ways to build complex routing with a new directory called apps. And I won't go into details. You can go to the documentation because it's out. They've also released, they previously bought Turbo. I don't know if you know Turbo. So Turbo is a monorepo generator or like a framework also, but it was very fast. So Next, or rather Vassal, acquired Turbo and they integrated it, and now you can have build times in single second. Okay,
that is impressive.
I know. And this doesn't just like production builds, even like local builds, like in terms of like doing your whole, let's say, yarn run dev. Sometimes it can take some time before it compiles, and then this is also single second boost, or at least those are the words, or matrix they were giving. They also brought other things like dynamic HTML streaming, which is very interesting, and I think all of you should read about how you can hydrate a whole page without refreshing a whole page, or rather It's very hard to paraphrase. But picture an instance where, let me see a good site, like a booking site. Okay,
Mhm.
you could have the search bar at the top. You could have the side nav with different menu items, and then like the middle space is where the actual content is. Now this one you can be able to literally search and just have the middle page open without rehydrating on the other components, and it keeps state across like very complex page layout. But anyways, it sounds like it's already been there, which a certain version of it has existed for a while, but this takes it to a whole new level. And yeah, I'm excited to try it out. They're still new. They also promise, they killed Webpack, by the way, in the build. That's why they can achieve such insane stuff. And they say it's up to 700 times faster updates than Webpack. So, good Apple. Now I need to come up with my own. That's Brian Tong's one. Good. Very original, I know. Anyways, that's my news.
Yeah, so while I was on your spaceship,
Mm-hmm.
I spied with the James Webb Telescope
Ooh.
the pillars of creation.
Ooh, that is an excellent transition. Sorry, carry on.
Someone is impressed. Someone is impressed.
So these pillars of creation,
Yeah.
they are cool, dense clouds of hydrogen gas and dust in the Serpent's constellation. And they are some 6,500 years from the Earth.
Light years. Or
Yes.
Ooh. No, it's funny. It's funny how light years work. Wow. Anyways.
You got lost for a moment, didn't you?
Yeah, got lost in.
Got it. No, it is interesting how light years work. You'd think, like, anyway.
Exactly, right? You see how you end up at anyway, right?
So, you're done with your news?
Yes,
All right. So, GitHub, you know GitHub?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, guy behind the mic has a question, yes.
What are light years? Yeah, please continue.
Okay, in case it wasn't audible, his question was, do light years work in the dark? Anyway, you know GitHub, yes? GitHub hits
they
1
work in
billion... Wait, Tony.
Sorry.
GitHub hits $1 billion in annual recurring revenue.
What?
Yes.
ARR
Yes.
of 1 billion?
$1 billion
Yes.
recurring revenue.
Yes.
Wow.
That's good purchase, Microsoft. Honestly.
Yeah. Other
purchase.
interesting something else that's interesting. So the acquisition by Microsoft took place 4 years ago, and there were 28 million users. Now there are 90 million.
Damn. Like that's like 3x.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am genuinely impressed. And who is this admin? Why do I gotta be called every time?
Every
that I'm
time you're recording.
The whole day you had time to call me. Why are you calling me when I'm recording?
Because that's the way life be. So you put on do not disturb or something.
It is on do not disturb. It just vibrated on the table. Otherwise I would have never known.
Wait, then how does that count as do not disturb?
Because I've put vibration mode on.
Okay, Apple clearly needs to do something about their do not disturb anyway. Sawa. Yeah, I'm done with my news. That was it from me. That was
1
it.
billion. I'm impressed. 90 million users. I want to build a startup that can have 90 million users or 1 billion.
You'll get there, Tony.
And do 1 billion in revenue.
No, 1 billion users.
1 billion users.
Yes, and do 100 billion in revenue.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. That's good to hear.
To the moon. I'll tell you guys about my next company so that you support me.
All right. Now, we've gone through that. On to today's topic of discussion.
That is so sad. That is so sad as if someone dies.
So,
My Michael, who did you kill?
No one. Today's topic of discussion is a bit of an interesting one because it's something we haven't done before.
Mm-hmm.
Today we are discussing a paper.
A research paper?
A research paper. And
Research on?
now that's what we're getting to. So the folks who
The folks?
get behind the mic, Tony. We
Wait,
had
what
that
does it mean?
notification. We had
Look. What is going on? I showed her, like, my knee was down.
it's like
Apple, fix your software on this.
it's like you don't care about what we say. That's what it's looking like.
Wasn't me.
No, sure. Anyway. Back to what we're talking about. So the paper is, let me just read the title. Experimental Security Analysis of the App Model in Business Collaboration Platforms. Okay, so for the context of our listeners, what is a business collaboration platform? Anyone? Any takers? Class? Any takers?
Me.
Teacher.
Okay, because you have your hand higher up. Okay, you
Well,
had your hand
I'm
straighter.
taller.
No, your arm was
That's
straighter. Okay,
unfair.
no, your arm was straighter. Hers was like here. Hers was here.
Oh, she was unsure.
She was unsure. So let's get you first, Tony. Then we roast you for being wrong, and then we move on to
business to business. What is the question?
business collaboration platform in the context of this paper.
It's business, communication. You see, businesses live in silos internally, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
So good scenario. I'm a business A, Michael, your business B. Okay. I have my own comms inside.
Mm-hmm.
You have your own comms inside.
Okay.
So now, Gloria is the tool that can act as a bridge for
Business A and B.
yes.
Okay.
Teacher, am I correct?
Teacher, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're very wrong. Okay, I mean that's one way it can be used. They can be used, but largely they are for internal comms. Rather than business A and business B, you have person A and person B and person C in the business A who collaborate. And so
I guess I'm in the future.
And so, of course, you can collaborate with persons X, Y, and Z in business B, but that's beside the point. What are the probably two more popular ones that you can think of off the top of your head?
Slack.
Okay, you got the first one wrong, so we go on to Gloria.
Slack.
Okay, Slack is one of them.
Are you saying I'm slacking?
No.
No,
We are saying
one of the
Slack.
platforms.
God.
One of the platforms is Slack. Hold on. Slack was acquired by who?
It
Remind me.
wasn't acquired. Slack is an independent
No, it's
company.
No, it's not.
Who acquired
Google
Slack?
Tell us.
Hold on.
The better Googler can Google.
Slack acquisition.
No one has acquired Slack, at least that I know of.
Salesforce completes acquisition of Slack. I told
Oh,
you.
right. I remember now.
Anyway, so Slack and Microsoft Teams, and if you know them, then you know why they'd be referred to as business collaboration platforms. So essentially, the from the abstract, the definition-ish is enable teamwork by supporting text, chatting, and third-party resource integration. And it's this third-party resource integration that's the subject of interest to this paper, because the idea is to determine how secure our comms are.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some very interesting things in this paper.
Mm.
Very interesting things.
Well,
very interesting things.
What's the concern? What's the concern here?
The concern is that the platforms are not as secure as one might think. Specifically, the
third-party
yes,
apps that are installed.
yes, that
on
is
the
a
platform.
concern.
So basically, the integrators. So who is at fault? Is Slack or is this BCPs are they the ones who have weak
Mm-hmm.
measures, or rather not weak, is it too open,
Mm-hmm.
or is it the third party guys who are at fault,
Okay.
or both are at fault?
I'd say it's a mix of both. Although you look like you have something you want to say, Gloria. No? I'd say it's a mix of both, presumably. In the sense, and not really who's at fault here, it's more of one, but the very nature of how these applications or platforms are built leaves them open to some of these things, and it would be up to the developers of the third-party tools to not build something too sinister. So there's an interesting statement here. So as the researchers were in the introduction part of the paper, they say, so hold up. So in the ethics and disclosure subsection, we conducted all experiments. We did not. Okay. We ethically disclosed all attacks we found to Slack and Microsoft, both of which have confirmed their existence. Due to their view of the workspace as a trusted environment, the assumptions that social engineering is a prerequisite for the attacks, and that the workspace administrator will correctly manage app installations, these attacks do not meet their definitions of a security vulnerability.
Oh, so based on the internal audits, they are aware that these loopholes, let me call them that, exist and happen. Could happen. But it's not a priority enough for them to consider it a security threat.
I wouldn't put it that way. Now this is where we'd need to have a lawyer. Wait, one of you guys do law, please. Anyway,
I got University of the Internet Law degree. Does that count?
All right. So
from YouTube school.
So I'd imagine it's not so much a priority as it is the fact that the various things that would need to happen for the attacks mentioned, I'm going to call them attacks mentioned, would, that combination, before that combination happens, ni struggle. Yes, that's how I'd put it. So eloquently for the common person.
It's like a mouse sees cheese, but before you get to the cheese, there are very many gates and traps.
Yes, that's a nice way of putting it.
Okay,
that's a nice way.
So how is this like a community thing, or is this like independent researchers?
Just independent researchers. Actually, so now that we are getting to the attacks, what are the three co-hosts? See, you can see them. Yes.
Yeah.
What are the three types of? I even have notes on this thing.
God damn.
Well, notes.
Well researched.
Notes. Oh, sorry. Well, I wouldn't say well researched. Actually, sorry. These are the notes. That was the wrong page. These are the notes. Anyway, yes. So, co-host C.
Yeah, so the first one is app-to-app delegation attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to explain them?
No, we'll get into that later.
Okay. The second one is user-to-app interaction hijacking. App-to-user confidentiality violations.
Right. Excellent. So now what we're going to do is blindly, assume you didn't know what these things are. App-to-app delegation attacks, user-to-app interaction hijacking, and app-to-user confidentiality violations. Let's each take one. And since we're going in alphabetical order, Tony, take us away. App-to-app delegation attacks. Assuming you don't know, like
I actually don't know because I haven't read anything on that.
No, you said you didn't read. I don't trust that.
I have not. I skimmed. So I would say
even ndio watu wangu kamtihani.
I would say app to app. Well, from the definition of an app, and we are talking about third-party apps, so it's definitely internal apps. Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So app to app delegation attacks.
Yes.
That's what it's called. Would probably mean that I know in some of this, actually not some, because I've used both platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like apps have the right to add functionality on top of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And one of those functionalities is autonomy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so what I'm thinking is there's a way for probably through that addition and that like belonging in the same ecosystem without any specific gateways, I can be able to jump Slack and go to this app. Like if we have 3 apps and we're both installed, I can be able to act on behalf of another app, for instance. I don't know, something like that. It sounds like it would be something like that, or like enter your system to, or do something.
Do something. All right.
How wrong am I? I sound pretty wrong.
We'll find out. Co-host C.
Mine is a user to app
Interaction
hijacking. As the word says, hijacking.
You can't use the word cat to define cat. You cannot.
Okay, so for example,
hijack. Like hijack. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. So during the pandemic, people were using Zoom a lot.
Right.
Yeah. And then there were some instances where you would start seeing some writing is going on when the call is going on, or some pages just appear. So some user somewhere has hijacked your app.
Your session.
Yeah.
So that's user app. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. All right. So we will get to
Sensei.
No. I'm like I said. Assume someone is not conversant with this paper. Then mine is up to user confidentiality violations, and to me, what that would sound like is that confidentiality means there is some information that is meant to be hidden but is not. That's how I'd put it. So because of the implementation, my guess would be that apps get access to information that they shouldn't, but
without the user's consent.
Bingo, bango, boingo. So now we've all given our best guesses, and we won't get into too much detail because we promised the guy behind the mic that we would keep this episode short
and sweet.
So that's what we will do. Instead, we will do surface level, not Microsoft Surface, but we will do surface level. Surface level. Level.
Your English is surface level.
Surface level discussion of this thing. And then we can all go home and simwache kucheka. Stop laughing, bana.
It's funny because it's Mother Hen who got it wrong.
You stop laughing. You stop. You're hurting my feelings.
Sorry, our laughs are on our surface levels.
Anyway. So throughout this definition, there are two guiding discussion. There are two guiding principles that the researchers surmise are broken. One, least privilege principle, and two, complete. Why did I do 3 fingers?
I have absolutely
and
no
two,
idea.
complete mediation principle. So, what's a least privilege principle? A subject should only be given the privileges it needs for it to complete its task.
Makes sense.
Complete mediation principle. All accesses to objects be checked to ensure they are allowed. So, for instance, if you are to access a web resource, you need to check whatever is serving that web resource would need to check to see if you have the relevant access.
Permissions to do so.
Yes. So throughout this paper, these are the two guiding principles that are looking, or that are considered. So let's get started with things, shall we? Flips page on notes. And I'm done. Anyway, no. Let's get into the attacks, shall we? Which are interesting.
Pew pew.
Why are you pew-pewing?
Attack.
Oh, no. Actually, no, sorry. Before we get into the attacks. On page 3 of this paper, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go through all these things like Nini, but Tony.
Yes, sir.
Page 3.
What does it read?
Like open it on your open it on your iPad.
Sorry.
Page 3. Page 3. So 2.1 BCP app. There are 3 things that are highlighted.
Yes. Numero uno.
So these are functionalities, for context, functionalities that the third-party apps in these platforms have. So numero uno.
Workspace feature provider.
Excellent. Number 2.
Interactive bot.
And number 3.
User delegate.
Okay. So to define them, read me the nini of number 1 and number 2 and number 3. Okay. No, number 1 is easy.
Me?
No, not you, Gloria.
The app may enhance.
Said number 2, not number
Wait.
1.
No, I said number 1. Sorry,
Oh.
number 1. Wait, can you listen with your hair?
Sometimes.
Okay.
The app may enhance our workspace's existing features.
Excellent. So, an app, you install it, boom, new features. Interactive bot is self-explanatory. User delegate, read that for me.
If permitted, the app may also perform actions on behalf of users.
Excellent. So we've got that. We've got that basic
Understanding.
those basic features, or that basic feature set to help guide us through this. So let's go right on into it and see app to app delegation attacks. So app to app delegation attacks, let's see. Let me just quickly read this off and we will get into it. So BCP's apps can interact with each other for productivity reasons independently of human involvement. To support such meaningful interactions, the BCP access control model allows apps to act on behalf of a user. That's app-to-app delegation attacks.
Right.
What does this mean in theory? So Tony, like, you are kind of sort of correct in saying it means that one app can interact with
Another app.
bingo bango boingo.
I was right. I wasn't kind of right. I
No,
was right.
you are kind of right. You are kind of right.
No.
Now, what does this mean in practice? In practice, Tony, paint me a worst case scenario of. Actually, no. Do I want to use Tony as an example? Yeah, since you insist you're right. What's the worst case scenario of an app to app delegation attack?
Well, I don't know if it's the worst case scenario, but I can give you a scenario.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to use like any real world apps, just like a scenario.
No, let's bring it home. Let's use real world, or close to real world.
Mm-hmm.
We have an app called file sharing
Mm-hmm.
that has your photos, it has your private documents, it has all those things,
Mm-hmm.
it has the company documents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a third party app that you've added into Slack. Okay, that's app 1. App 2 is another app that allows you to set meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a scenario where if app 2 was malicious and wanted to fish what kind of new research documents and new schematics
Mm-hmm.
that your company is up to,
Mm-hmm.
could easily tell app 1 to, like with a command, because I know Slack has, for instance, slash, like you can do slash
Mm-hmm.
and then like a command and then it executes to something. So let's say one command would be list for me all files in, and it just keeps doing that and it relays that information somewhere into their own servers and stuff like that. I see like that's a very bad scenario, I would say, for many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Am I close?
Well, it's decent enough. Some of the things listed here include retweeting on a victim's behalf.
Yeah.
So you have no idea what's going on, but an app is just retweeting things. Ding, 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 ding.
Or doing merge requests.
Yeah.
Break the code.
So that's app to app. That's app to app. Again, we're really doing this. We're not doing this as much. We're not going into this as in depth as in depth a way as possible. But
It paints a picture.
paints a picture.
And that picture is a Picasso.
Eh?
As in the picture we are painting is
It's like a
too slow.
Picasso.
It's too slow, man.
No,
Painting.
no.
It is slow,
I mean,
man.
I got that. It's just,
You don't get it.
Okay. All right. If you say so. On to the next item on the list. User to app interaction hijacking. Take us away, Gloria.
Worst case scenario is I'll take his scenario
Mm-hmm.
where we have app B that does the meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and then
App A is a file sharing.
app A is a file sharing, but I'm mostly targeting app B.
App B. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you have set your meeting. It's a private closed meeting. And then whoever somewhere uses the slash, gets into your meeting, and then they get
Slash
information.
join. Mm-hmm.
They get information that was confidential to that set of meeting.
Hi.
Most excellent.
Most excellent.
Most excellent.
You
So
get a gold star.
So co-host C has mentioned something about slash, and in Slack, a big concept around using third-party applications is slash commands. So you have this is forward slash, yes, forward slash rather than backslash. And you forward slash and
Then the command.
command. And what? So for this one of the things in this subsection, or one of the subsections in this main point, is slash commands hijacking, which is what you've talked about, and that is possible because you can have slash command name collision in Slack.
That actually came to my mind, and I think Slack has a way around it. I think before you type your they don't.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
They
And
don't.
And the most recently installed app is what the slash command takes effect of. So now you're in the know.
Yeah.
Interesting statistic. Hold on. I wrote this down somewhere. Where is it? So 270 Slack apps register commands used by other apps.
This guy, the name collision.
Yes. So 270 out of their sample set was
2,307.
No, wait. Okay. You hold on. Let me just do this real quick. So their sample size was 2460. So 270
so far
divided by
I'm not so far off, to
2460
be honest.
is 10%.
That's a chunk.
Okay, 11%.
That's a chunk, because I'm assuming it'll probably be apps that there are more than one file sharing apps. For instance, there are more than one conference call apps, and there are more than many other kinds of apps.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that 10% is a huge, substantial part of the most used apps. That's a problem.
True. Oh, but you know what? It gets interesting because
Ooh, spooky. I love interesting.
because an app can rename commands.
Yeah.
No, you don't understand.
I don't.
You don't understand. Too.
We don't.
You don't understand.
Mhm.
I don't.
You could add this third-party application,
Mm-hmm.
knowing these are the commands it uses, but on post-install, like say you had your command /a, you can set it up to rename /a to /zoom, for instance.
Wait, like another existing app, apps
Like
command.
so you've installed application A
Yes.
into your workspace, and application A on post install, or rather these are the commands it has on post install, might rename itself, or a command might be renamed
Mm-hmm.
to clash with an existing command.
And developers will do that intentionally.
Now that's see that's the thing. That's one of the gates that
Ought to be there.
that Slack and Microsoft would have you believe is present.
Because wait, do these guys have in the Android store, or rather, let me call it the Android store and the Apple store.
Mm-hmm.
You do get a code review before you're approved.
Excellent question. We will get back to that. Put a pin in it. We will get back to that. So if I forget, remind me. So
Yes, you've put a pin on it.
So Android code review, iOS code review, whatever code review. Excellent. So before we get to your question, there's something interesting that, and this is the last one, and that is app to user confidentiality violations. Now, long story short, it is possible, say on Slack, it is possible for you to view an application to view private messages or messages in a group or in a channel or in a group chat that it is not added to.
What? That's mental. Why would you even let like global access for all?
It's not about global access. It's about the conditions needed to meet that. Now, hold on. Let me see. Just give me a moment. So unfurling of message links. So long story short is it's using the links to messages. Through these links to messages, it is possible to traverse.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I get you.
However, now you remember that principle, the second hold on, let me just get to it. Complete mediation.
Yeah.
That check is not present because ideally in an ideal world, yes, it might get that link to a message, but it shouldn't be able to view that message because it's not been added.
So it's not in the array of accepted whitelist.
Bingo, bango, boingo. It's an interesting paper if you feel so inclined to reading it. To answer your question, Tony, and this is one of the things that, excuse me, that was mentioned as a challenge and also a potential solution, is code reviews. So currently, no code is hosted by, say, Slack or Microsoft for Teams, right? No code is hosted. It's entirely closed source in that it's just an API endpoint you hit, and the developer is the one who hosts the code. So it is entirely possible for a malicious actor to provide an app that does 1, 2, 3 things. However, there are certain checks for it to be listed on the directories, the app directories. However, you can distribute the apps outside the official app directories.
Can or cannot?
You can.
How so?
I mean, you know the way you can sideload apps on Android?
Yeah.
It's essentially the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. You can do something similar with these BCP apps.
Because I was about to say, I have gotten an app on top of Teams.
Yeah.
And it's relatively straightforward. Anyone can do it. But for you to go to production, I did have to go through a couple of
Loopholes?
checks. Checks. Like there was a back and forth between MS teams or the people who verify you before you become searchable into that. So like when you mentioned, I was like, no, but that's not the process I went to. But then I remember it wasn't about the functionality of the app. It was more, okay, do you meet the criteria of, okay, this region, you only needs HTTPS, for instance, or, just like basic checks of like, it's like data points, whether you have those data points, and then how your app works is really not a problem to them.
So yes, and that's, I guess, one of the questions you could ask. Is the solution to these problems adopting an app store-like model?
I don't think so. Because you have to think as the company also. That's massive infrastructure investment. And that means cost, and that means more cost because you need to hire, and that means more energy consumption, and that means more cost, and many other things that rotate around the word cost. I do think there is a scenario where without having to build your own infrastructure, we could have apps, like, I wouldn't say regulated, but reviewed by these teams. And it doesn't have to be like the whole entire piece. Like one critical thing would be like the branch or whatever it is that holds the commands, for instance.
Okay.
Right? And this can easily be automated, I suppose, right? Because you'd submit, let's say, like a TXT file that holds all the commands your app has. And Slack or Teams or any of these BCPs can easily run a comparison analysis and give you a report on matching or something like that. And I don't know, probably a mediocre solution, but it's definitely
I don't want no mediocre. Sorry.
definitely like something to consider as a short-term gate before the smart minds at these companies think of better things than what I just thought of, because I'm not smart at all compared to them. So yeah.
What about you? What are your thoughts? Do you think they should adopt a more app store like vetting experience?
I think they should. They should do their checks and balances and see if this app is secure enough that it won't go through, won't have any slashes, any collisions, no hijacking, no violations of confidentiality.
That is
Yeah, and also when the user is installing, they should ask you a few questions. Are you sure? Do you allow permission? Those kind of things.
Very nice. Thank you for your contribution.
What do you think?
What do I think? I think, first of all, I doubt anything is going to change because it works for these platforms, and I don't know. So I don't see it happening, even if I do say, oh, it should work. But I would say there should be a more, actually, maybe not necessarily the App Store level kind of vetting process, but finer grained permissions checking, much like you've been having in iOS and macOS and all these operating systems. Have finer grained permissions and implement stricter checks. That's what I'd say. That's what I'd say. But yeah, that's been it. That's been our discussion of this study. Let us know what you think, as always, on our socials. And on that note,
FTG out.